don't think I would have discovered who I was if I didn't start this company. I used to always walk around saying, I want to be this boss-ass bitch taking care of business, and I think that this company gave me that confidence.
That's Aleks Lason, and this is the Powerful Ladies Podcast. Hey guys, I'm your host, Kara Duffy, and this is the Powerful Ladies Podcast, where I invite my favorite humans, the awesome, the up to something, and the extraordinary to come and share their story. I hope that you'll be left entertained, inspired, and moved to take action towards living your most powerful life. Aleks is a badass entrepreneur. She co-founded Chrillex, a creative agency that specializes in brand and content, with her husband Chris 8 years ago. They have offices in Toronto, where they started, and now LA too, with teams across North America. On this episode, Aleks shares her journey from Poland to Canada to LA. She talks about what it's like being part of a creative power couple, how taking risks and being curious is everything that matters, and how she discovered her own power and confidence in the middle of it all. Well, welcome to the Powerful Ladies Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I was connected to you through the amazing and magical Chris Ray.
Yeah. Who has a huge part in our lives. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's introduce yourself and tell everybody what you're up to.
So my name is Aleks Lason. I own a creative agency with my husband. We specialize in brand and content. It's called Chrillex. So what we do at Chrillex is we're able to take all kinds of all of your content needs under one umbrella. So we're able to do photo, video. We've just announced that we're able to do copy content. We also come in as production support because we have such a large roster of photographers, videographers, editors, everything. Mm-hmm. So Jordan, you want to get on that roster. So we always say we're like your marketing department's secret weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I like because I'm a big fan of anything espionage related, so that automatically gets me. But as a business owner, when I hear that I can outsource everything as a bundle,
yeah,
that makes me really happy.
When we first started, we always just coined ourselves as a video production company and started realizing that we were actually hurting ourselves by doing that. And then we were limiting to the resources that we had. So it was really cool that now we're able to do this. And because we're so obsessed with content and we're surrounded by all these creatives, we were like, why won't we just have people write blogs for our clients? We can make that an offer. And right now, a lot of companies, for some reason, are just not hiring marketing departments at first. But it's so important. What are you if you don't have a marketing department? So that's where we kind of sneak our way in a little bit until they get settled.
No, 100%. I mean, it's... with Powerful Ladies being in year one still of our second phase of what we are, finding the right fit for marketing and our sales story has been the hardest thing.
Yeah.
And granted, part of it is my fault because our budget is like small to zero. And how do you make that all happen? But we have so many amazing stories. And when people ask me, what are we up to? And I list it all out, they're like, holy shit, like, why don't I know this? I'm like, well, you don't know this because I don't have a marketing team right now.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating. And I know right now that our growth is being stopped because I'm not putting enough effort into marketing.
Yeah, because you're doing everything.
I'm doing everything.
I totally understand that. And a lot of the new business owners that we work with, we see that too. So,
yeah,
and Chris and I coming from such a small family-run business, we absolutely get that. So we always try to do a little bit more above and beyond for our clients because we know what you're going through. We get it. We were there 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it kind of becomes more of a family. All of our clients become fast friends.
Yeah.
Because of the amount of respect and family support we get from our end. So I get that.
Yes. And I love that you mentioned that your clients become friends quickly.
All of them do, yeah. Yeah. I love executive coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I told you I'm all about it.
Yes.
We both, Chris and I, have coaches from the same agency, and they kind of work together to attack us from both ends, and I love it. But it's been one of the most uncomfortable and challenging things I've ever had to do in my career as the CEO. But I think because of it, it's tripled our business in 8 months.
Yeah.
It's crazy what coaching can do.
I don't know why everyone doesn't have one.
Right.
Like you don't even need to know what you're up to yet to get a coach.
Yeah.
And I have a few people that don't know what they want to do. They just know they want something else.
Yeah.
And so that's super fun. Like, cause then you're doing all the inside deep work, like helping people figure out who they are.
Yeah.
I'm working on an ebook right now. Maybe it'll become a course.
You are so cool. Yeah. An ebook? I heard writing books is the hardest thing, and you just keep throwing hard stuff on your plate.
Well, part of it is because I have to for the trademark. That like I'm trying to do it all at once.
Right.
And like an ebook doesn't need to be big. Like technically an ebook
Don't downgrade it, coach.
Just saying. It can be like a 5-page thing. This is me breaking it down so I can not have a meltdown and get it done.
Yeah.
But what I'm working on is called How to Figure Out What You Want to Do with Your Life.
Yeah.
Because it is the number one question that people are asking me. How do I know? I'm like, ooh, that's good. Let's talk about it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you deal with people who already know what they want to do, but
yes, sometimes
they need help to be better?
Yeah, like I deal with people in life, business, or money. So I have some clients that have a business and they want to take it to the next level, hire the first employee, do less work and make more money, right? Everybody. And I have some people who are just like, I need to get my shit together. Like, let's take this on. I'm like, okay.
Who doesn't?
Right. Yes.
God, hiring employees is such a whole other planet.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yes. It can be, and it can be like the most powerful, liberating thing.
Right. We're going through that phase right now too, where we have like a list of over 100 freelancers that we work with worldwide. And now I'm having to let go of this controlling issue that I have that has clearly shown in my coaching sessions. And it's so hard to have somebody else walk in and understand mine and Chris's dynamic, because sometimes we don't even have to speak to each other, and we know exactly what needs to be done. And delegating work, and I'm starting to notice that on my sets too. I'm able to step back and be like, okay, I don't need to be frustrated about this just because it's not done this way. It's okay. I didn't give the instructions properly here. And, it's sort of letting go of that. And then there's the whole factor of, beating ourselves up. It's been 8 years. We've had maybe 3 full-time employees that kind of had rotated through that weren't successful for us. And, knowing that it's not always going to be that situation. You weren't ready then. You're ready now. You have all your ducks in order. And even if you don't, you can figure it out. Like, sort of working on that right now.
I love it. I just came back from Berlin, where Powerful Ladies partnered with WebFest Berlin.
Oh, you're so cool.
And it came up in every panel and every workshop, how you have directors and screenwriters and producers, and they're like, how do I give up control? And I was like,
so it's not just me?
It's not just you.
Oh, great.
I could not believe how it came up over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And so finally we just stopped and started talking about it. And for me, like, I was like, if you guys want my advice, it comes down to like your why. How do you get, like, people hire you or people want to work for you because they want to work for you, not the thing that you're making necessarily. Right. So how do you sell them on you? How do you sell them on your why? If people can get your why and what you really care about, it doesn't matter what you're making. But I want to get back to you because you're the guest. So how did you guys meet? How did you start this business? Like, where does it begin for you?
We both went to college, media arts at Sheridan College back home in Canada. And we ended up being in the same section of the program. And then with that section, you kind of travel to all your classes together the first semester. Yeah. And out of all classes in the world, Chris and I ended up in audio class. And he just walked in, and I remember looking at him being like, knowing that there's something really special about him. And one of those moments where you're like, God, I love this guy without even knowing. It was the most weirdest interaction, but I ignored it for a little bit. And we became fast friends. We ended up working on a production together. And at that time, when we were working on that production, I just knew, like, I have to be with this guy. And so, we made it happen. And we had to keep it a bit of a secret from everybody. We couldn't tell our program because our professors told us that the first day when we had all 80 of us from the program in one room, we were told that, don't date, don't sleep around with anybody in the program because it's bad news. It never works out. It's going to fail. Like it just starts drama. We don't need that here. We're here to focus on careers, all that stuff. So we didn't tell anybody, but then it eventually started getting more clear that Chris and I had something special going on the side. And, we had this two really first projects that we worked on together. One of them was a Bolex film. We had to record, I don't even remember what, but between Chris's shooting and my understanding of lighting and exposure, because I came from traditional photography, black and white photography, our film was the best exposed, the best shot. And everyone was like, who are these guys? And then another one was we had this silly assignment of someone having to go through the college entrance doors. You had to tell a story from waking up to going through the doors. And Chris and I both thought, let's do an orange and just have this orange rolling into class and all that. It was ridiculous, but it did very, very well. So since we met, we were put in a position of partnership right away. And then we ended up, and it was great because I've been in relationships that didn't understand what I do or what I want to do, and it's been very difficult. But when you're in a relationship with somebody who understands creativity and understands, the film industry. And at the time, we were both very driven to go into the union and work on film sets. And we were both wanting to be in the camera department. So we both really, really understood. And it wasn't until we started actually working in the real world that Chris and I were like, why is this the way it is? We can make it so much easier. He was working for a commercial agency. I was working for a TV station at the time. Started doing TV series. And we were both so miserable. And he's like, we should just start our own thing. And I was like, okay, well, if you want to start our own thing, I'm totally down, but it's got to be legit. I don't want to just have a Facebook page up. We have to have a plan. We have to have it figured out. And next week we were at the lawyers setting up our company. And then having to seriously talk about how I'm in debt and I can't fully jump on this until that, and showing him my bank statements and him showing me his, and what's this going to look like? Well, we're both camera people. That's not going to work out. And it was kind of very clear that Chris has an eye for the camera creative stuff. Things that I couldn't do, but I could support and understand, which was great. And a couple months actually after graduating, I went to Europe with my documentary professor, who only barely made me pass through the program. All of a sudden hands me a flight ticket to go to Poland with him on this huge production and coordinate it all for him because I come from Poland. I'm fluent in the language, so I had to set everything up for them and just be their boots on the ground. And I came back falling in love with this production world, and that's how I ended up in the TV world. And so by the time Chris said that, I already sort of knew I was going to most likely run the business. And then, first day when I officially put in my very last check from that terrible company I worked for, $650 went into this tiny little incorporation company called Chrillex. And we were like, all right, $650. We need to buy a website. So it was good. It was just, I remember sitting in his parents' basement and thinking to myself, God, I can't wait until we have a nice office. I was worrying about the dumbest stuff and not thinking, we got to push this thing forward. But we ended up in a year getting one of the biggest corporate clients we could have in Canada, 114 videos, French and English, in 6 weeks of development, actually shooting and post-production and delivery.
How did that happen? How did you land that client?
So Canadian Tire, which is an equivalent of Walmart and another tire company out here in the U.S. It was kind of you can buy sheets, but you can also buy tires in the same store. It's very confusing, but it works.
I get it.
They had their internal team, and they loved me and wanted me to work for them. And I showed up at the meeting that they were going to offer me the job. And I was like, instead of giving me the job, what if you hired my company? And that way, it just like totally turned their minds. While they were building their marketing department, they had me running all of their, outside productions. Like I ended up having to produce a sort of like a Shark Tank version of a show for them in Vegas for like auto parts. And then, we were in like launching new stores, working with Olympic athletes. Like it was just insane for like the first year. And then they developed this whole new other department that had their catalog that you would get mailed to you all the time actually on their website. And what they wanted to do was have this main video, which was like a thought starter. Throughout the video, there would be these little plus buttons that you could click anytime a product was mentioned. You go to that product video, it explains the product, how do you use it, what recipes, here's some advice, here's a story about a person who uses this product. So it was just this like line of lines of lines, and it was incredible what it like. And that's where Chris and I were like, damn, branded content is amazing. Like you can just keep breaking into it. And I remember no one really understanding. Everyone thought, you went to film school, you should be in the union, and what happened to that? And we were just like, no, guys, this is like really serious. This is big.
Yeah.
And it took about 2 years before people realized.
There's so much power in any short form content today.
Yeah.
And I mean, short form's excessive because that can be up to 20 minutes. And we have a big debate on this podcast about how long my episodes are. And I'm like, listen, I can't make people talk less. And if I want to know the questions and we want to keep going, like we're going to make it long.
Yeah.
Because guess what? The fastest growing podcast segment is long form podcasting.
Yeah.
So deal with it, Jordan. But
sorry, Jordan.
Yeah.
I talk a lot, so you're going to be editing 4 hours.
Yeah. But no, like there's so much power in visual storytelling and small digestible amounts that keep you clicking through. Like you might end up spending 4 hours on a random website because of 1 minute videos.
Yeah. Chris and I are now trying to push more of like the 3-5 second content onto our clients because now with the Instagram not showing you things in the right order anymore, you have to come up with ways to stick out. And that was kind of our way. And Chris is he sees that stuff like nobody else does. Like he's able to look at a product and be like, oh, I know how people are going to be obsessed with this. And on top of that, people are sitting there watching it loop because they're like, how did they do that? And it just like, it blows. And we've seen that so many times. It's been working for our clients that we're so excited to be pushing that out now too.
So a lot of people who see something that doesn't work and they're frustrated with their day jobs, their next thought is not, we need to do this ourselves. It's my thought. Yeah. It's your thought. Like, how did anyone think you guys were insane besides not going to the union? But were people like, what are you doing? Why are you even bothering starting a business? Like, just make films.
Yeah, I think everybody thought it was a joke. And then my dad, who's like super supportive European father, like he was just like, oh yeah, my daughter has a business. Little does he know we're not doing anything. We're just like stressing all day. But he was just I think he's finally, he's not someone who will tell me what to do. So he's like, oh, she finally figured it out, but everybody else, because I was like, oh, I want to be a teacher. Oh, I want to be a photographer. I want to get into journalism. Like in high school, I was just like changing my mind every 2 months. And now when I told him we're going to start a company and that I was starting it with Chris, he was like, there she goes. There's the real Aleks. But honestly, I think our friends thought it was cute. Yeah. I think everyone we went to school with thought it's a joke. Our teachers didn't really take it seriously because because everybody who did try to start a business, like they tried to make movie production companies, and we came off as a production company, but we were filming like corporate videos and all the stuff that was showing up on Facebook and YouTube. And we kept going into meetings and pushing people, telling them, don't spend your money on TV ads, spend it on Facebook ads, like really push this here. And they just wouldn't. I mean, this was 8 years ago. Like Instagram wasn't even around yet. Like, it didn't come into I think once Instagram came in, our business fully flourished.
People got it.
Yeah. But when it was just Facebook and YouTube, it was really hard to get everyone to sort of see that idea. But yeah, I think my mom was worried because, I got offered this beautiful job with a great paycheck on this huge Canadian company with benefits and everything. And my mom's very traditional. So she was like, I think you should take it at least for a year or two and figure out what you really want, pay off debt, all this stuff. And I remember just like battling it so hard that I was like, no, I got to do this. And my dad says, you have till September. So it was August when I got offered the job. And he goes, you have September till next year to make this work. If you don't, I'm going to start charging you rent. And it was his way of being like, get out of here, kid.
Yeah.
And so we ended up doing that. And then it worked. It was working. And I think he forgot about having to pay rent because we weren't making very good money. But it was like, I think he forgot. And he just saw that I wasn't just goofing around.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it was like we got engaged the next September. We bought a house in November, and things just started like really going there. And then 2 years later, it started all like falling apart. Yeah.
What happened?
We just, we weren't thinking forward. We were constantly only focusing on today.
Yeah.
And never focusing on, well, what's next?
You're getting sucked into the weeds.
Yeah. What happens if Canadian Tire builds an entire marketing team and doesn't need us anymore? What happens if they start hiring their own internal shooters and editors because they realize how expensive we are that, they don't need us anymore?
Yeah.
And it just wasn't, we didn't go to school for business.
Yeah.
We went to school to be creatives and had a totally different path. And there was no way in hell I was going to go back to school to learn how to do this. Yeah. I didn't have the time at the time to read books about businesses and everything. So that's the time in my life when I really should have gotten a coach.
Yeah.
But didn't till, we moved to LA until we, 3 years into LA where I was like at an event and learned about what a coach was and hired her on the spot. Like it's, very, very different. Yeah.
So you guys obviously made it through.
Yeah, those were dark times.
The 2-year blip.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Did you have to scale back your team? Was it you guys? Were you eating the ramen? Like how did you make it through before you came back up?
My dad told me a story one time that it was the hardest thing for him to do when he had to ask someone in the family for money to help support because we were going through a rough patch as a family. And having to be in that position was the most, first of all, we like overdid it. We, purchased a home that was totally out of budget. We were kids. We weren't thinking. We were spending money in all the wrong places. There was no one we could talk to that kind of did what we did. Or if there was, we were too embarrassed to talk or ask questions because people were expecting us to fail. That's put us in a bit of a corner too. Our marriage started suffering too because we were working from our house. Like we never had an office at that point. We were constantly, so it was like rolling out of bed, going into this room next door, working, and then just like rolling out of it and going back into bed. Like it was no... we weren't going into meeting. Like it was depressing. Yeah. And it wasn't until, Chris called this consultant and she goes, well, what's the goal? And he's like, I don't know. It'd be really cool to get like an office in Toronto. And she goes, that's not a goal. What's the goal? And Chris, like, I remember I was like about to run out the door and he's sitting there being like, I don't know. It would be kind of cool to be in LA. And I thought to myself, okay, we're going to move to LA. I was like, Yeah. And so we ended up working with her and she taught us about what we need to do as far as marketing and reaching out to the contacts that you already have, all that stuff, how to reach out to new potential clients and helped us build like a marketing plan for that year. And we ended up blowing up to the point where when Chris said, okay, well, how do we talk about going to LA now? It was just like this smooth line of it made sense. Yes. This is the right year to do it. And also in the Canadian market, we were hitting a ceiling. We had all the big clients the first year of business. So
which is insane.
Yeah, it was. And so it's like, where are we gonna go from there? And we thought if we want to continue doing what we love and we want to continue being together as a couple, because it got to a point where, we were considering maybe not staying together anymore. Because I believe that if you're happy in your job, you're a good person in your marriage to your kids. And that was not existent there for any of us. And even if it meant getting full-time jobs or anything, it just wasn't working. So it made sense. And we decided, you know what, we're going to take the risk. The Canadian company is functioning on its own out there, which is great. With like the corporate clients we'll be able to do like 1 production or 2 productions a year, and the company's like afloat and really comfortable. And we just ran out, this way, and barely had anything, barely knew anyone, sold the house, got, rid of one of the cars, and just went for it.
So I hear a theme of not being afraid to just do it.
My coach said that the best time that you feel the most the time you feel the most happiest is when you take a risk.
I know I do.
Yeah. Everybody does.
It's there's something in the free fall.
Yeah.
And I think they call it free fall because there's freedom in it.
Yeah.
There's that moment once you step off and you haven't touched ground yet.
Yeah.
There's that moment where you realize there's space to be, to mess up, to look around. And it's, we think of free fall as a bad word.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Like, we think it's a bad word, because if you really imagine literally jumping off of a cliff and how much your perspective changes and how much wider you suddenly can see.
Yeah.
Like, all of that sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And then I purposely did instead touching the ground, not hitting the ground, because you don't have to, there doesn't have to be a splat.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to be
right.
what happens.
Yeah.
I always struggle relating to people that never take the risk. Like, I really
talk about this all the time. God, there must be this like common theme between people on this part of the planet. Yeah.
Or just in this room on this podcast.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And I don't get it. Like, I don't get people who don't want to travel or don't want to try. Or, like, to me, it's a curiosity factor.
Yeah, curiosity will get the best of me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, but I also feel like curiosity is the reason why I am where I am today.
For sure.
Curiosity is the reason for my success.
Yep. Yeah. And it's, I don't know, can you imagine living any other way?
No.
Yeah.
No. And, this is also like the biggest conversation that Chris and I will have too, because people close to us are in this like routine life and they're fine with it. And we're like, but you could do so much more. But then at the same time, we have to come from a perspective of understanding that what we do is also really hard. And we've now been doing it for so long that we're a punching bag. We're able to, we've been through the low 2 years. We know what that feels like. We can handle it. We know we can come back to that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we won't. That's the thing is now we know how to avoid those flags. Yep. But I could see why a lot of people would have quit by now.
Mm-hmm. There's a level of, I always think that when everyone thinks you're a little bit insane, you're probably doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And there has to be a little bit of throwing logic out the window. Yeah. And going based on heart or instinct or intuition, or just being open to seeing what happens in discovery. Because if we do things based on logic, you stay.
Yeah.
Like, you become a librarian and you stay there and you save your pennies and you don't leave. And logic says to keep things small because you're safer when you're small.
Yeah.
But
that just doesn't sound like fun.
Nope, not at all.
We always say, well, what if our kid's not, like, what if we have a child? A kid.
Number one.
Yeah. What if we have a child and that child doesn't want to be this type of ambitious and, start their own company and move to another country? We're always like, well, even if our child wanted to be a janitor, we know that they're going to be the best janitor in that space, And I've heard that before, saying like, if you're a garbage man or a garbage woman, be the best one in that section. And I think that's where I come from. That's the kind of angle I'm trying to come from too. My friends who are doing the 9-to-5s, I believe, I'm really trying to believe that they're the best in that space, because I can't do what they do. That means they're the best in their space. Yeah. That's the way to turn it around a little bit.
No, and I think too, like, whether you're in the corporate world or you're not, or you're a mix, like, I've always jumped in and out or run parallel and, side hustles and everything else, just because I'm chasing whatever sounds fun and interesting and like adding to what's next.
Were you unhappy in your corporate jobs and that's why you did this switch?
No, it was never that I was unhappy. It was, I've always just been curious about something else. So, I mean, I've had small businesses since I've been like 9. It's just like always been something that I'm like, oh, well, what if we tried that? Or I can do that, or let's make that. So if anything, it was being in roles that weren't big enough for me where I was bored. Like if I was fully consumed and exhausted, and some of my jobs were, especially when you were, like there was one point at Puma, I was traveling internationally every week. Yeah. Which is, that's a lot. You're just exhausted. At that point, I had nothing else happening. There were still dreams and lists being made, but that was just physical exhaustion. But a lot of the other times, it's just been like, I'm not full. Yeah. And why not? There's more hours in the day. Right. So what made you guys want to come to LA?
I think the whole idea of coming to the U.S., especially as a Canadian business, is like the next thing you do. Most Canadian businesses end up going south of the border. But I think if we had to choose, it always was between LA and New York. The reality is we had more clients in LA. We had more connections and more relationships already built in LA. Not that we didn't try in New York. It's just a very different market. Yep. And when we ended up coming down, I think it was our first time to LA, we met Chris Ray. We tricked him into doing a video with us. And we connected with him.
Tricked him.
Yeah, we tricked him. We had this like silly idea. Yeah. I'm not even going to call it because if people find it online, they're going to be like, you guys are crazy. Where we essentially just interviewed people and told their stories. Yeah. And Chris Ray, my Chris being in the skateboarding world, me kind of just like floating into it as a supportive girlfriend or wife. I fell into it as well, but I didn't know Chris Ray until the day we met him. And we started interviewing him. And then the next day, at the end of it, he was like, this is really cool. You guys are really great. Like, what are you doing tomorrow? We're doing a shoot. Do you guys want to come out and help me and this guy named Mart? And I was like, sure. We had planned to do like other meetings and other events. So that night I'm like scrambling to schedule things away so that we show up on that set. And we do. And, we meet Mike Blayback, like the photographer of skateboarding and
a super nice guy.
Yeah. And then we're in this situation where we're like helping them shoot. And then we're also shooting BTS for our video with Chris Ray. Like it just kind of all fell into place and talk about things meaning to happen. And we ended up staying in touch. And he just, like, every time we met with him, he would just be like, you guys should come down here. You guys should come down here. And I'm like, it's so easy for an American to say, hey, come down. Yeah. I can't. Yeah. Legally, I can't. When we decided to do it, it was 8 months of the U.S. government ripping us apart. Paperwork-wise, like having to look back 5 years, having to explain why our logo is the way it is. What does Chrillex mean? What's our 5-year plan? What's our 5-year forecast? Like, it was ripping us apart. What are you going to promise us when you come here? Because in 5 years, we're checking. Like, it's this whole, like, it's overwhelming for kids. On top of that, having to know that you're going to pack your life up from this, like, 4-level side split home to wherever you're going to live. And the friend that Chris Ray connected us with, Marin, he was kind enough to put a roof over our heads our first month here. So I was living with what are now my best friends under one roof when I was going through the toughest part of my young adult life with my husband. Here we are married, living with, 3-4 other people in this one little house. And
in a new country, in a new city.
Yeah, not knowing anything. And I honestly feel like I won the jackpot there. I got my best friends. We got to go through this experience together. Yep. I feel sorry for the people that have to come to LA on their own and really don't know anybody and don't have someone to put a roof over their heads. Yeah, see? But like, I got so lucky. And then, we started, as soon as we got here, Canadian clients were like, wait, you're in LA? That's so sick. We have a production in LA. do you mind taking care of it? And then it was like, we were kind of hoping for a month of break to like figure it out and get emotionally there. Because every time we went to the store and I couldn't find the milk I bought, I would like break down crying. Like it was like, you know, it's just, you're not used to your systems and your stores. And I was like, what is Trader Joe's? And, you know, now I'm like, you don't know what Trader Joe's is? Like, it was like, what a time. Like, I can't even... you have to do it to know what it feels like, because there's no words to express what those 3 months of my life were like.
No, I moved here from Germany, and before that I was in Boston, so I'm not from there originally. But the first 6 months, I didn't realize I had a headache until one day I'm like, my head doesn't hurt. I didn't even know it hurt. This is weird.
Yeah, it's so funny.
I think the movie that captures the experience the best is Under the Tuscan Sun.
Yeah.
Because every day, even like you get so embarrassed that you're having meltdowns about the dumbest things.
Yeah.
Like I remember going to IKEA in Germany, and they don't have credit cards. They don't have any financing unless it's like a car or house.
Yeah.
And so moving there at 26, and I sold all my stuff. It took me 9 months to be able to like afford or finally want to buy a couch.
Yeah.
And then I'm in IKEA losing my shit about like what color to choose. I called my friend Tom and I'm like, gray or white? He's like, what? Gray or white? Gray? Thank you, bye. And just hung up.
Oh.
He's like, what the hell did I just choose? I'm like, I couldn't pick the couch color. Like, I can't make one more decision by myself.
You make an excuse to just focus on the silliest things.
Yes. Or you just feel so overwhelmed. You're like, the silliest thing is like the only thing that I can actually choose.
Yeah.
No, I totally get it. Like
Chris has this photo next to his side of the bed, which is a Polaroid of our first month. We didn't have a bed frame. We were living just sleeping on a mattress. That when Chris came, he got his visa before I did. So he came a week ahead to just set up a little bit of a life. And there's this like the RC stands that we brought with us are holding up all these like DC shoes, clothing products, and their shoes. And then next to that is just a bunch of Penny skateboards, because we just got a contract with Penny skateboards. Yeah. And we're like sleeping next to this because we had a co-working space office that was smaller than even that space, that we couldn't have all that stuff in because it was just glass walls everywhere. And it's like a reminder of that, again, low point that we're like, we're never coming back here.
Yeah. Well, and you realize how capable you are. Like, we think that we need so much literal stuff.
You don't.
And space, and I don't know. We feel like a comfortable life is this way. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be. And honestly, like the most creative stuff, some of the best times, it's when everything looks like a hot mess and you're like, fuck it. Like, what are we going to do today?
Yeah, I'm really good at hot messes. Yeah, I love it. No, honestly, I feel like I thrive in hot messes.
Every job I think I've ever gotten, they've been like, this is a shit show. You want it? I'm like, sure.
Yeah, sign me up. Yeah, it's crazy because I used to beat myself up about, we were the first one from our group back home to get married. The first one to buy a house, most likely one of the last to have a kid. And we come here and no one's married. And some of them have kids and are married, but they're older. And it's like, we never have this like right. And I thought, my poor mom just always wanted me to go to school, find a job, get married, have children, like buy a house, have children, and all that. And I just ended up kind of mixing it up and taking pieces out and putting fresher pieces in, and although I keep her on her toes, I'm definitely a lot happier. Yeah. And I don't beat myself up about it anymore like I used to. And I think it's because you have to go through these tough times and be like, it's okay. Like, I'm still happier with this hot mess than having to think about doing something that one of my other friends does. Yeah. That thing that we were talking about before, where it's like, well, you're good at that, but I could never. No, and it's like, just the space to follow the life that you want, or to make the life you want. Yeah. Like, I'm a little bit nervous about where social media and the cultural conversation is about people being the same and like wanting the same stuff. And even like people like 90s grunge fashion, when it was like all coming back in. I was hoping that the 90s approach would also come back, of celebrating everyone being different
and it being cool to be like a little weird and creative and not to look the same as everyone else and not to follow the same path. And it's interesting to me to see those two, like half of the world here and not the other half. Like, I think it's slowly starting to change with a lot of the like people in their, 16 to 22 really becoming activists.
Yeah.
But I miss that. What are you doing to be creative space?
Yeah.
And even in entrepreneurship, where that's normally where it thrives, it's still very cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Like I just talked about this in the workshop we did in Berlin of either you need to be on Shark Tank or you need to be already successful 1 million followers influencer, or you need to go to a Y Combinator. I'm like, those are 3 fake newses about entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And I'm mad that that's what people think you have to do.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's people like you guys that have a thriving small business that most people haven't heard of.
Yeah.
And you're killing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's why I made this. So
Yeah.
we can talk about you guys.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I think that's why it's weird when people are like, hey, we want to talk about you. We're like, why?
Because
we're not on Forbes yet. We're not on Inc. yet. Yeah.
Yeah. I got so mad when I turned 30 and I was like, shit, I can't be on a 30 under 30 list.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I was so mad. And I'm like, it's fine.
Chris got the Canadian version of 30 under 30.
Yes.
And I was like, that's fine. I'll get the American one. But I'm turning 30 in like 4 months. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. But also understanding that that's just not my reality right now.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
It's also a list.
Yeah.
Like you're on the Powerful Ladies list. So
Thank you. I
You're
prefer
welcome.
this list much better.
yeah.
This is a great list.
Yeah. Especially when you look around and see who else has been here, like it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what I like to look at too is that Forbes list, those could be potential friendships that I built through work too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
It's coming.
It's coming. It's definitely coming. Chris and I keep saying that it's crazy to think of where we came from to where we are today.
Well, even your story more, right? Because you have a story before Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, I came to Canada in 95 with my mom, my dad, and my brother. And my mom had to buy pots and pans from Goodwill. And I remember her cooking soup on a frying pan, not in a thing, because not in a pot, because I don't know why that happened, but she lifted it and the bottom got stuck and it went everywhere. And I remember laughing as she just like screamed and started crying. And I didn't understand what my parents were going through until Chris and I did that here in LA. It makes me so sad.
Yeah.
And I always say to my parents, I'm like, how were you able to do that with 2 freaking kids?
Yeah.
And Chris and I have FaceTime and internet, like all that. I was like, we're freaking cheating. So we can't complain.
Yeah.
And my dad said to me, you have no choice. It has to work. And that's kind of what I've been approaching every situation since we got here is we have no choice. This has to work. And then Chris has this new line where they're saying no now, they'll say yes later.
100%.
So it's like, yeah. But yeah, coming to Canada was quite an interesting path. I think it made me the human I am today. I'm super grateful for it. And I think I made my parents proud by taking advantage of that and coming to the U.S.
Yeah, you're like all-star immigrant story.
Yeah.
Like, look,
I know what immigration's about.
Twice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, and you hear the immigration story a lot in Canada. So it's not very much talked about here in the U.S., or maybe because people usually from here are somewhere from the other states. But yeah, Canada is just a collage of immigrants. So everybody has an immigrant story one way or another.
Well, technically the U.S. is too.
Yeah.
And the only immigrant story that we feel the need to talk about right now is illegal immigration.
Yeah.
And it's beyond frustrating.
Yeah.
Like, why do we have amnesia about what our country actually is?
Yeah, one of the biggest conversations we're having now is if we were to start a family, how we would have to do it on our own. But we already run our own business together. Like, add another thing on top of that. It's crazy and lonely. although we do have great friends and family here, but it's different when you can just be like, hey, Mom.
Oh.
Yeah. Take this for now. Yeah.
We moved my whole life growing up.
Yeah.
So there was never that for my parents. So I think it just never crosses my mind that there's help.
Yeah.
Like people talk about like, you can't have kids and travel. And I'm like, what?
Why not?
Yeah. No, you just throw them in a backpack. You're good.
Yeah. I think but that's the mentality thing too, because Chris and I are saying the same thing. You know, we were like, well, what happens if we have to go to Connecticut? We have a job there.
You bring them.
Yeah, take the kid. Yeah. I know someone in Connecticut who can give me a couple hours of watching, you know.
My sister lives there. She has 2 kids. Just drop them off.
Let's call your sister. No, it's okay. Still no kids.
No, it's like I had a dog.
Yeah.
I still have a dog. He's almost 16. I got him in grad school.
Yeah.
He moved to Germany with me. I worked full time. I was mostly single that whole,
yeah.
Like, how do you have a dog and travel and work this much? I'm like you said, you have to make it work.
Yeah.
You figure it out.
Yeah.
Was it expensive? Yes, it was.
Yeah. Was it worth it?
Yes, he's amazing.
16 years of your life. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like everything, whatever you want your life to look like, you can make it work. Okay, so let me get resituated because there's so many golden nuggets. You've moved to LA. You have a double immigrant story. You have a business with your husband that's thriving. And I think if people are listening right now, or the people who are listening right now, they just want to know, like, what are you doing that you think is different that's making this all work versus everyone else out there that their businesses aren't working?
I can only speak in my space.
Yeah.
But we keep it simple. Yeah. Why make content into this whole, it lives online for a very short amount of time. But I'm not, just because I'm saying simple, I'm not saying cheap.
Yeah.
But it lives online for such a short amount of time. And your audience is constantly changing. The way people use these platforms are constantly changing. The fact that Chris and I are able to adapt. I also think one of our strengths is definitely that we approach Chrillex like a product brand. So when we work with clients like Gymshark, we understand why they're focusing on this one item so much, because we do this same thing with Chrillex. We approach the business plan. We approach everything is approached. And I think that's what makes us different. Is most companies, creative agencies, act as this one service, whereas we're acting as this product. Yeah.
It makes complete sense to me.
Does it? Because sometimes people are like, what are you talking about?
No, well, I come from making products.
Right.
Like a world where that's what you're doing. And
wouldn't it be nice to have a vendor who understands that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
agency is such a sensitive word right now. And I'm almost like scared to say that we're this creative agency. But to me, an agency is just like a hub that's able to offer more than one thing. Like I'm this one-stop shop kind of idea, everything you need under one umbrella. Creative group, yeah. But then I have a friend telling me, everyone who was in an agency is quitting and saying that agencies suck and they're starting their own companies and saying like, because agency world is terrible. And I'm just like, maybe I should stop saying we're a creative agency. But yeah, I'm in that. So that's something that I'm definitely trying to like figure out right now too. Like, I say we're a creative agency because I feel like that's the language people understand. But right now it seems like the word agency is a negative word.
I feel the same way about consultant. Like everyone hates spending money on consultants because they don't do anything. They don't add value.
Right.
And like I've said this and experienced it myself too. So I'm like, I'm the anti-consultant.
Yeah.
And people are like, what? I'm like, I'm just going to help you with your problem. So what do you want to fix?
Yeah.
How do I break this down? So I get it. You're like, how can we tell you we can do everything for you and elevate you and make you look amazing? Like what words make sense that you get that? Yeah.
Sometimes I'll sit there in meetings and just say, we're like a creative agency without your agency fees. And then they're like, all right, we're listening.
Yeah. What type of clients do you specialize? Are you really broad?
We definitely our strength is in lifestyle brands. So whether it's like a shoe product, clothing product, we do really well there. But that being said, we also have food clients that we're like kicking butt in. And something that Chris and I are always open about is we have this network of freelancers. So if it's maybe a product that we aren't exploring the right way, we can get somebody else in. But then also, isn't it interesting that we haven't had that type of client yet? Like we might be working for a company that does towels. And, we are the right team to do that because we don't come from this traditional agency that does this. And one of our skincare clients said this before too. When they called us and said, we want to hire you, we were like, why? We don't know anything about skincare. Like we can do this, we can figure this out, but why? And the president of that company said, that's exactly why, because you're not going to put us in a template.
Yes.
And you're going to approach it from a totally different perspective. It's funny because since we got to LA, I feel like the way Chris sees palm trees is not like everybody else here because we didn't grow up with palm trees. Like it's that whole different perspective, and our company is able to approach that, all that type of clientele very well. But we definitely do very well in clothing and shoes. But we're working with Gymshark. We've done work with Under Armour. We are working with Hippies, which is a chickpea puff. We're working on their new campaign for next year. We just wrapped Santa Monica Pier, which is really great. Awesome. We did their Twilight event, which was, I think for a little Canadian company to come in and say we have Santa Monica Pier, like that was huge, We work with a helmet company called 1000. We do everything for them from photo, video. The clientele list is insane, and I love all of them. Yeah, when we get called, we sort of like vet through whether or not we want to work with clientele as well. So it's been really great to be able to be in that position too, where we're like, we're not the right brand for you to do this, and we understand. Chris we also work with Shopify, which has the platform to have all these other companies. So
Powerful Ladies is on Shopify.
There you go. Yeah, we were the ones that did the pop-up video for Kylie. She ended up sharing it. We were like, what happened? No one knows it's us, but we were like, sick. And it was like, and you know what? We arrived here at the end of August, and that December, that happened. And that's where we were like, shit's real here.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's an element of charm to like how things have happened for you guys? Like some people, I'll give my personal opinion about luck later, but like some people say like we're lucky. Some people say things are working out. Like how is all of this happening for you guys where it's like right when you need it, things are showing up, do you think?
I could say it's hard work. Yeah, it's definitely hard work. The curiosity gets us in trouble all the time, but it's there. Honestly, I think it's the experience. Yeah. I think once you work with us, you can't go back to another agency. And it's happened where they'll come back and be like, yeah, we just want to work with you guys though. Yeah. And it's fine. And I'm not like, there's no in our contract that doesn't say you're exclusive to us or anything like that. And, with some other, like the bigger agencies, maybe I will stop saying agency, but those bigger agencies, they definitely do make you stay there for a couple of months or years. And we don't do that. There's no obligation there. And I think that makes it good too. Because we understand we can't take everything on for you. We can suggest other teams too.
And why would you want people to feel trapped? You want them to be there because they're hyped.
Yeah. The whole idea is like, we're coming in as your marketing department's secret weapon. Like, we want to be a part of your team. We're helping you succeed. Like, if you succeed, we succeed. This whole success of this brand is like on our shoulders just as much as it's on you. Yeah. So I think it's the experience that makes us different.
When you look back at what you've achieved and what just you and your business as a whole, what is something that you like are most proud of? Like this is a key defining moment in you getting to become you or getting a big lesson.
I don't think I would have discovered who I was if I didn't start this company. That I used to always walk around saying, I want to be this like boss ass bitch, you know, like just taking care of business. And I think that this company gave me that confidence, proved to me that I am, and proved to me how strong I am, because it's only through the company that my life got so difficult and complicated. And
awesome.
Yeah. I handled it like a champ. I'm super happy. We were sitting in Huntington, like I live in Huntington Beach. We were sitting in Huntington Beach that first trip that Chris Ray completely messed up our schedule. And I remember sitting and saying to Chris, wouldn't it be nice to live here one day? And now I live in a small, tiny studio apartment, you know, where my kitchen and bedroom and living room are all in one space. And I'm so happy. And on top of that, like I get to do with the love of my life.
Yeah.
I get to wake up every morning and go to this office that, you know how I told you when we were in the basement, I was like, I just wish I had this like New York style office. I have that in Long Beach now, and I love walking in there. It was the first time in our company's existence when it came to offices where I got to tell them, knock this wall down, put a door here, paint the walls white. Like I never was in a position to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like thinking about, I was 21. I was 21? Yeah, I was 21 when we started the company, and I used to always think I'm weak, I'm not strong enough, I can't handle this. And I'm like, I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be. And it's thanks to this thing I created with Chris on our own, going against what everybody said. Because when we were saying we were going to go to the US, it was during the new elections. So it was now or never, because who knows?
You might not be allowed in.
I might not, yeah. And I mean, I don't think, yeah, it was, but you know, all of our friends were like, you want to go and that's happening? Or, you know, there's this perspective like Americans have about Canadians have about Americans. And it's like, no one was looking at it from this is a smart business move, but you guys are crazy. And, you know.
How dare you go and hang out with those hillbillies instead of us? Yeah.
And it was hard, but everything that Chris and I did when people always fought against it was the right move for us.
Yeah. My personal opinion of Canadians is that I haven't met one I don't like yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Toronto's one of my favorite cities.
Yeah, I love Toronto. And you know what? When we were leaving Canada, I think because of that whole transition being so tough, we approached it from a really negative perspective. We were also very unhappy because of other things that were going on.
Yeah.
That now we go back to Canada to vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's a beautiful country. People are great.
Yes.
The food is amazing. Like all those, you know, cultures and different foods. And it's just, I have so much more love and passion towards that place now than I've ever had before. And I think sometimes it's good to leave your hometown to appreciate that.
100%. The first time I went was just before Christmas. And I got to go up to my friend's cottage north of Toronto as well. And I got the full like Canadian Christmas experience. Oh my God. And it was amazing. And I consider Boston home. And so for me to go to a city where we were going into like dark bars and we got to hang our coats up by the door and we're like in a booth and we're having great conversations. And I like places where people like to talk. Like my biggest complaint about California, Southern California, is that you can't just sit around and like have open conversations with people about whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what, why is this weird? Like you go in Boston and you will have everyone at the bar, from like the Patriots fan to the tweaker to the guy from Harvard to you name it. Yeah. And we're all having one conversation at the bar. Yeah. And it can get super political, and people might yell and debate. Yeah. But like everyone's passionate. It's passionate. And then like you buy a round for everybody, you cheers and you keep talking. Yeah. So I'm like, why, what are we doing wrong here that talking about things is bad?
I don't know. Because I think I'm still trying to figure out what California is. But yeah, I mean, you're right. We'll go to New York. We'll be at a little small like faux spot and faux fa, and you'll you're like shoulder to shoulder with the person next to you, but you end up like meeting a great friend.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, or like we just got back from BC and I feel like we just made the greatest friendship of our lives with 2 Australians, like at the airport, and here it's like nobody will talk to each other. Or if you do, it's, they're difficult conversations. But that's what I'm saying. I'm very lucky with the friends I have in Huntington because they've become family and it's a different conversation too.
And I need to also put an asterisk
now we're just
on there.
Justifying.
No, but like, because I have amazing friends too. We do have conversations, but it's, I guess I come from a place where it doesn't need to be friends. It can just really be anyone. And there's
it's difficult.
Talking and conversation. And I have a request.
Yes.
So what I love about how Canada does television is they're so good at doing these subliminal, like, Canada is great commercials and PSAs. Like they don't, like, I don't even know if Canadians realize it's happening, but it's so obvious.
Are you talking about the Newfoundland one?
No. Like I was in Montreal during the Olympics. And
great place to be during the Olympics, by the way.
It was when they were in the last Winter Olympics.
No, I know, but I feel like Montreal is very passionate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another amazing city. But I'd be in my hotel room working at night and watching the Olympics. And there were so many commercials about like what makes Canadians Canadian. And we're not just nice, and they're showing diversity and people doing things. And I was like, why does the U.S. is so bad at internal PR.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't we talking about all the good things that are happening, or even just telling the U.S. like who we are, like reminding us.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be like eagles and flags, right? It can just be like really mellow and just a reminder like, no, we're good citizens and we help people cross the street and we start businesses. And so maybe you guys being Canadians here can start sneaking this into...
Yeah, who do I talk to?
I'm not sure. Maybe start with NPR or KPCC. I don't know. But I'm like, there has to be a way for us to like heal the current U.S. state by just reminding everyone that we are actually a lot more alike. Like we like kids and barbecues. Like everyone can say yes. Who wants that, right?
Yeah.
We all vote. You know, we ask everybody where they put themselves on the Powerful Ladies scale. 0 being average, everyday human, and 10 being super powerful lady. How do you feel today? How do you feel on average?
I'd say a 10. Yeah.
Awesome.
I got this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For women who don't feel like they're a 10, what advice would you give them?
I think it's to having to get a coach. I think a lot of it has to be from exploring on the inside. I mean, if you asked me 2 years ago, I would have said probably a 4. If you asked me a couple months ago, I probably would have said maybe a 6.5. I think that the more I'm saying yes to things, the more I'm exploring, the more I'm being out of my comfort zone, the more I meet with people that I wouldn't normally meet with, and just throw myself in conversations and embarrass myself and be okay with it.
Yeah.
The more confidence I've started getting, you know? And also, I was saying this to Chris, my coach does a really good job of making me write down the things I'm doing and breaking it down. Because, you know, it's all in here in my head, but it's hard to sort of get Chris on the same page, understanding like, what did we net this year or whatever. So once I start writing these numbers down, I'm able to be like, wow, I was a huge part of this. I'm really good at my job because I got us here.
Yeah.
Or, wow, I got us Santa Monica Pier. Like, that's great. And then in my personal life, it's like I'm going to, you know, events where I'm meeting women that I don't normally do. And I'm learning to, at these events, my friends started this company where you just go and like they do these sort of, it's a little harder to explain because I'm still trying to figure it out. But you go to these events and you meet these other women and they give you like a list of questions and you have to ask each other, but they're difficult questions.
I love this.
They'll ask, you know, I have to ask the person what their first impression of me was.
Yep.
And you don't like being in this position, right? But because of that, it gets you to just like start telling people things right away or not being in your head so much. I also never go into a room now and start judging people. Like, I'm not going to be able to talk to that person, or that person gives me the creeps, or they're definitely way too like ambitious for me. Now I'm just like, all right, I'm not the smartest person in this room. That person has a story. That person's really interesting. That person's shoes are great. We need to have a conversation. Like, it's just like, finding so much more positivity, and just, I think finally, loving myself has gotten me to give that confidence. But it took work. I mean, we were, I blamed myself anytime something wouldn't succeed. Now, if we don't get a contract, I'm not in a position where I go, oh God, what did we do wrong? And this was my fault. I can't sleep for 2 days. It's more just like, they'll call. They'll eventually call back.
What are you doing to...
Is it cocky to say I'm a 10? No, I'm confident. I'm a 10. Yeah.
No. We had a woman say, I'm a 12. And I was like, yes.
Sick. Yeah, I didn't know that was an option.
Yeah, right.
Didn't want to push my confidence. Chris is like, oh God.
When you have your own business, and especially when you have a business with your partner, your whole world can be the business.
Yeah.
What do you do to make sure that you're giving time and energy to other parts of your life?
Yeah. So we only became very good at this as of recently. So I would say we've been practicing for about a year, maybe a little bit more, about what that looks like. Because when we obviously got to the States, it was like restarting a whole new business again, different markets and all that. So we started making that Wednesdays is date night. We don't have our phones on us when we're cooking dinner, and we're always both coming up with like new recipes to just try out. So it like really takes your brain and just focuses on that.
Yep.
Talking about what the schedule is going to look like, so that what's in my head is now like public. So Chris knows and knows the expectations. Also practicing like, alone time too is very beneficial, doing our own activities. And then Chris has this whole thing where I don't care if you still have work to do. At 5:00, we leave the office. And we have this neon Chrillex sign, and anytime it's on a timer and it's 5:00, you start seeing us like put our things away.
I like that there's a visual cue.
Well, Chris is very visual, so he needs that. And I could like, if we didn't have that visual cue, I think I would have just been like, oh, it's 5:50. He doesn't notice yet. I'm terrible at that. And I think it's also because Chris and I have been so honest and open and vulnerable when we first started dating, and then having to go through starting the company. The bottom line is it's us over the company, because we both know, we're both confident enough in ourselves and in our work that if it gets to a point where the company is taking over our marriage, that we can leave the company and get full-time jobs anywhere. So we're not worried about there's not going to be any work if this thing falls apart. Yeah, I think I'm just kind of talking now. But more importantly, I think it's just we both have a ton of respect to each other, for each other. And I think that's important. Chris is, a huge push on women, and, encouraging them to, like, Chris empowered me to be a powerful lady, like without Chris, I don't think I would explore a lot of me. Behind every person is a great partner. And I can't imagine ever doing a company by myself or going through life alone. Yeah.
Who are powerful ladies that have influenced you?
I have so many. I love Sarah Blakely from Spanx.
Yep, one of my favorites.
Yeah, she's such a great example of a woman who's gone through so much all the time, and she takes it like a champ. She laughs about it all the time. I admire women who can laugh at themselves, because I think it's something that has taken me a really long time to do. But she can eat shit and talk about it and laugh. She can drop her kid off on like costume day and her kid has no costume, and she can cry about it and be very open about it. And I hope one day I can be like that.
Yeah.
I'm just open about screwing up. And she also worked really hard, but she had a lot of loss in her life as well. But she's turned it around to being so positive. And yeah, and she just like, her husband's kind of crazy too, and she like encourages it, and you know, she does that stuff too, and it's great. And then I'm also really impressed with, and I follow a lot, is Jen Rubio from Away. She's I discovered Away quite early on, so I've sort of seen Jen grow to what she is today. And she actually is marrying a Canadian too. Yeah. So I think just the way that Away was approached, I just have a ton of respect for her, because she's just, her and Steph are just really smart women, and what they've done with luggage is incredible. Yeah. I mean, like, Reese Witherspoon's fantastic, and she embraces her like silliness and quirkiness. And I think what I love about, what I always look for in other women is their confidence, ability to laugh at themselves, and their smarts. You know, I used to always get very nervous to speak to other women, and now I'm just like, we need to have a conversation. We need to learn. I don't know. You could be in a room with people, and sort of like, my friend has this new company, and you can be in a room with people and realize that everyone has or feels the same way as you. And you're like, I would have never thought, because you look so perfect. Yeah. You know? But yeah, we just have to start all talking. So I really appreciate you doing something like this, because it gives women the opportunity to speak. We should do a round table. You want to do a round table? Jordan, you in? Yeah.
We just talked about having round tables.
I'd love to be a part of a round table.
Because I love doing panels. And they're so impactful at events when we do them. It's like my favorite way to have an event. Yeah. And we need to start capturing these conversations, because they're so powerful. Yeah. People who want to be like you, how do they start? What do they do?
You just start.
What does that look like on the ground?
You just have to,
starting.
You just have to do it. Come up with what that business looks like, and then try it on for a little bit. Tell people that you're doing it, and do it, and practice. And when it gets tough, don't give up. Keep going. I think the first thing is you have to just start. A lot of people have these great ideas, and they're such geniuses, and it's a shame that it never comes to reality. You have to remind people of what you're doing and what you're good at. And that doesn't mean that you have to keep posting on social. This is what I'm doing. Have genuine conversations. Call them. Let them know. Let them know you're doing a podcast. And do they know any powerful ladies that think could be great? You know?
Tell everyone.
Tell everyone. And be confident about it. Try it on. Tell yourself first, this is what I'm doing. This is who I am. You know, I didn't really start realizing who I am in this company till recently ago. And this is like 8 years now in the making. You know, but I finally found my mold. I finally found where I want to be in this business. When we begin hiring the full-time employees, what does that look like for me? And get a coach.
Well, and just to remind everybody, like, you guys didn't know everything that you didn't know, and you didn't have all the answers. You just knew, like, you know, I'm just making up a number. Like, I know how to do these 5 things, and we'll just start doing those 5 things. Like, I think so many people get wrapped up in, I don't know how to make a business plan. I don't have a lawyer. I don't know what this looks like. You're like, what do you want to do? You want to be a graphic designer? Start designing. Like, just do the thing. Because all the people make business look so complicated, which makes me mad, which is why I've started my business, because I'm like, it should be easier. Yeah. The business part isn't the part that you get paid for. You get paid for the product, the thing that you're doing. Yeah. Do the thing. And then you can hire people like myself or other people that went to business school to
help you
do the other parts that anyone can do.
And it's also pretty incredible what resources you can get for free. Yes. That we didn't realize until we left Canada, and we were like, we could have done that. So we started applying that here, and what a difference it made.
This has been lovely.
Yeah. I really enjoyed myself.
I'm curious, what are you up to next? What do you want people to know?
Well, we are now not just photo and video. We now are releasing our copy content. So we're able to we have a really long list of incredible writers worldwide who can write anything from blogs, press releases, to brand books, brand Bibles, we call them, anything really. And so that's coming out soon. We're actually releasing that on Monday or Tuesday. We're announcing it. Monday. And thanks, Chris. And we just wrapped a really big campaign for Gymshark, so I'm really excited to see that. And I think that 2020 for us is going to be that really huge transitional year. So you're going to be seeing a lot more of us. And yeah, I'm just really excited.
That's amazing.
2020 is going to be a good year.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, I have to give Chris a huge thank you for connecting us.
Yeah.
And Chris Ray, because we have so many Chris's in the world.
I have a lot of Chris's in my life.
Yes. So Chris Ray, thank you for connecting us. I even think Jeff Goforth was like secondary to like make sure that we got connected.
He's so sweet.
Yeah, he's great. Aaron too. But thank you. This has been awesome. Yeah. I'm glad we live down the street so we can hang out.
Yes.
And we will definitely have to have you on again. And I think next time we should interview you and Chris together.
Yeah. Round table too, okay?
Yes, round table.
I'm taking that really seriously.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Here at The Powerful Ladies, we have huge heart-shaped eyeballs for Aleks. She's smart and fun and honest, and she's a great example of going for it and just doing it. We love her entrepreneurial spirit, and now she's approaching her whole life that way, with intention, curiosity, and truly looking to be the curator of her own life. I am so excited that Chris Ray connected us, and selfishly, I'm just excited that I get to meet awesome people like this and share them with all of you. To connect, support, and follow Aleks and Chrillex, you can follow them on Instagram at Chrillex, Twitter at Chrillex, and their website, Chrillex.com. We'll have all the spellings for all of that in the show notes, plus additional ways to connect with Aleks as well. If you'd like to support the work that we're doing here at Powerful Ladies, there's a couple of ways you can do that. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Leave a review on any of these platforms. Share the show with all the powerful ladies and gentlemen in your life. Join our Patreon account. Check out the website, thepowerfulladies.com, to hear more inspiring stories, get practical tools to be your most powerful, get 15% off your first order in the Powerful Ladies shop, or donate to the Powerful Ladies One Day of Giving campaign. And of course, follow us on Instagram at Powerful Ladies. For show notes and to get the links to the books, podcasts, and people we talk about, go to thepowerfulladies.com. I'd like to thank our producer, composer, and audio engineer, Kara Duffy. She's one of the first female audio engineers in the podcasting world, if not the first, and she also happens to be the best. We're very lucky to have her. She's a powerful lady in her own right. In addition to taking over the podcasting world, she's a singer-songwriter working on her next album, and she's one of my sisters. So it's amazing to be creating this with her, and I'm so thankful that she finds time in her crazy busy schedule to make this happen. It's a testament to her belief in what we're creating through Powerful Ladies, and I'm honored that she shares my vision. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. I can't wait for you to hear it. Until then, I hope you're taking on being powerful in your life. Go be awesome and up to something you love.